You won't believe what went down when Jock finally confronted Kirk and Rasheeda. Emotions ran higher than ever. Fans are shocked, and the family was left divided like never before. It all started during what was supposed to be a casual dinner, a friendly catch-up moment that quickly spiraled into chaos. Jock had been holding onto a secret, something he couldn't keep in any longer, and the tension in the room was palpable from the moment he walked in. Kirk, usually calm and collected, immediately sensed something was off. Rasheeda, radiant but sharp-eyed, knew there was a storm brewing, but she had no idea just how explosive it would get. The room felt electric, charged with unspoken truths, and every glance, every subtle gesture hinted at the drama about to unfold. Jock's voice trembled slightly at first, but there was an undeniable intensity behind his words. "I can't stay quiet anymore," he began, and the room went silent. The casual laughter and light chatter evaporated instantly. Kirk's jaw tightened, his mind racing through possibilities, while Rasheeda's eyes widened in disbelief, a mix of concern and guarded curiosity taking over her usual composure. Fans watching from home could hardly contain their excitement, as this was the moment they had been waiting for, the moment a truth long buried finally surfaced. And no one was prepared for what Jock revealed. The details were messy, awkward, and personal, hitting at the very heart of relationships, trust, and loyalty. Accusations flew like wildfire, voices cracked with frustration, and every sentence seemed to raise the stakes even higher. "I thought I knew everything," Kirk admitted, his tone a mixture of hurt and confusion. Rasheeda's response was sharper, a mix of protective instinct and disbelief. "You've got to be kidding me. This changes everything." Emotions ran high as each revelation seemed to peel back yet another layer of tension. The drama was undeniable, and fans couldn't help but pick sides, debating on social media and filling the comment sections with theories, reactions, and outrage. By the end of this explosive confrontation, it was clear nothing would be the same. Jock's confession left everyone questioning alliances, relationships, and what the future holds for this tight-knit circle. With hearts pounding and tempers flaring, viewers are left on the edge of their seats, desperate to see how Kirk and Rasheeda will respond, and what this means for their family and friends. One thing is certain, LHATL fans are in for a ride they won't forget anytime soon, and the fallout from this revelation is only just beginning. The room was tense the moment Jock stepped through the door, a mix of determination and nerves written all over his face. Kirk, lounging casually at the corner of the room, looked up and instantly noticed a difference in his friend's energy. "Jock, what's going on?" he asked cautiously, a hint of unease creeping into his voice. Jock didn't answer immediately. He scanned the room, taking in Rasheeda's presence, her posture rigid yet composed, her eyes sharp, as if she already knew something major was about to drop. Fans watching on social media would later describe this as a pivotal moment in LHATL history, one where tension, emotion, and truth collided into a single, unforgettable encounter. Jock's hands trembled slightly, but there was fire behind his gaze, a fire that said he could no longer hold the secret he had carried for months. He cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention. "I need to tell you both something you're not expecting," he said slowly, his words punctuated by a pause that seemed to stretch on forever. Rasheeda leaned slightly forward, her instinct telling her that this was serious, while Kirk's brow furrowed, sensing the gravity of what was about to be said. The room fell silent, every rustle and creak of the furniture suddenly amplified. In the tense atmosphere, the first part of the revelation was subtle, almost hesitant. Jock began by recounting moments, conversations, and actions that on the surface seemed innocent, but in his retelling, they carried hidden meaning, implications that had been ignored or dismissed by those involved. "You both think everything's been straightforward, but there are layers you're missing," Jock explained, his voice rising with a mix of frustration and urgency. Kirk shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his mind racing, trying to piece together what Jock was hinting at. Rasheeda's hand went to her mouth, a subconscious gesture of shock as the first cracks in the narrative began to show. The tension was electric, almost unbearable, As fans live streaming clips later commented, "You could cut the air with a knife. And I've never seen this family so shaken." Jock's eyes darted between the two, making sure the impact of his words landed evenly, like a carefully aimed bomb waiting to explode. The revelations started to take a more personal turn, diving into territory that no one had dared to confront before. Jock brought up moments involving Mendeecees, subtle interactions, and choices that had been overlooked but now, in the light of his truth, seemed monumental. "I can't let this slide anymore. People deserve to know the real story," Jock said firmly. Kirk's reaction was immediate, defensive yet vulnerable. "Jock, I don't understand. What are you saying? Are you suggesting?" he stammered, his voice betraying the tension building inside. Rasheeda, meanwhile, was trying to keep her composure but couldn't hide the storm brewing in her eyes. "Spit it out, Jock," she demanded, her tone a mix of command and desperation. "I need to know exactly what you're implying." Jock's gaze hardened. "It's about Mendeecees, the things that have been happening behind the scenes. The lies, the half-truths, the secrets, everything." The room felt like it had tilted, the walls themselves closing in under the weight of what was being confessed. Emotions escalated quickly. Jock's confession was like pouring gasoline on a fire that had been smoldering quietly. Kirk's face turned pale, his hands tightening into fists as he tried to process the implications. I didn't know it was that serious," he muttered, his voice barely audible. Rasheeda's reaction was more intense, a mix of shock, anger, and hurt, coursing through her like electricity. "You've got to be kidding me. All this time? And we didn't even know?" she yelled, her voice echoing through the room. Jock, standing firm, could only nod. "I know it's a lot to take in. I wouldn't bring it up if it wasn't crucial. But I can't watch everything unravel in silence." At this point, the fans at home were going wild, flooding timelines with clips, comments, and heated debates about who was right, who was wrong, and what this meant for the family dynamic moving forward. Social media lit up with speculations, theories, and outright shock as viewers struggled to digest every word of the confrontation. The room became a whirlwind of emotion as Jock continued, detailing encounters, hidden conversations, and private moments that had been swept under the rug for months. Each revelation was met with gasps, exclamations, and the occasional sharp intake of breath. Kirk tried to interject, but Jock held up a hand, signaling that it was time to listen, not respond. "You need to hear this all the way through," Jock insisted. Rasheeda's expression softened briefly, a mix of curiosity and sorrow overtaking her initial fury. "All right, go on," she said cautiously. Jock's voice carried over the silence like a drumbeat, deliberate, commanding attention. "There have been things happening that nobody really talks about. Things that affect all of us, how we trust each other, how we protect our family, how we move forward. And if we don't address it now, it will only get worse." As the story unfolded, tensions mounted. Jock's delivery was precise, but the content was explosive. He revealed moments of betrayal, small yet significant lies, and actions that had caused unspoken fractures within the family unit. Kirk's response oscillated between disbelief and anger. "You're saying this whole time Mendeecees knew, and nobody told me?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly as the weight of the information sank in. Rasheeda, unable to contain herself any longer, leaned forward, her hands clenching at her sides. "I trusted everyone around me, and now I'm supposed to just accept that this has been going on?" Her voice was shaking, and the tension was palpable enough that even fans watching clips later noted how her anger and heartbreak were impossible to ignore. Jock's expression remained steady, almost sympathetic, but unflinching. "I didn't come here to hurt anyone. I came here so we can deal with this head-on before it gets completely out of control." The confrontation quickly escalated into a heated argument, voices overlapping, accusations flying, and emotions running high. Kirk and Rasheeda alternated between defensive postures and moments of vulnerable honesty, revealing their own frustrations, fears, and disappointments. Jock, maintaining the role of the truth-teller, occasionally raised a hand to pause the chaos, emphasizing that the revelations were about clarity, not conflict. Yet, every word only fueled more tension. "You can't just drop this bomb and expect everyone to be calm," Kirk exclaimed, pacing slightly, his usual composure shattered. Rasheeda's glare could have sliced through steel as she countered, "I have every right to be angry. This affects everything: our marriage, our family, our trust." Jock, standing firm, simply nodded, acknowledging their pain but insisting on transparency. "I get it, and I'm sorry if it hurts, but secrets are poison, and it's time we start detoxing before it's too late." As the discussion continued, layers of betrayal and emotion came to light. Jock revealed instances that implicated not only Mendeecees but also others in their circle, complicating relationships and adding depth to the drama. Each revelation was met with reactions ranging from stunned silence to heated interjections. Friends, family, and fans alike would later describe this as one of the most emotionally charged and dramatic moments in LHATL history. Kirk's disbelief transitioned to anger, then back to sorrow as he realized the full scope of what Jock was uncovering. I don't even know where to start," he admitted, his hands running through his hair. Rasheeda's frustration boiled over, but underneath, it was a deep hurt, a feeling of betrayal by those she trusted most. "Every single one of us has been played," she said bitterly, her voice cracking. The confrontation reached a pivotal point when Jock disclosed a particularly shocking piece of information about a private interaction with Mendeecees that nobody had anticipated. The revelation caught both Kirk and Rasheeda completely off guard, leaving the room in stunned silence. "You knew about this and said nothing?" Rasheeda demanded, her voice sharp and full of disbelief. Jock, unwavering, replied, "I didn't know how else to bring it up. It wasn't easy, but I had to be honest now before it blew up in ways we couldn't control." The emotional stakes had never been higher. Fans would later comment that the intensity of this moment was beyond anything seen on reality TV before, and the shockwaves of Jock's honesty would reverberate far beyond the walls of that room. By the end of part 1, the room was charged with emotion, unresolved tension hanging in the air like a storm waiting to break. Jock had delivered his initial wave of revelations. Kirk and Rasheeda were reeling from the truth, and the stage was set for more explosive confrontations and heart-wrenching drama. Relationships were being questioned, trust had been shaken, and the family was left divided as never before. Every viewer at home was glued to their screens, waiting for what would happen next, as the next layer of truth threatened to ignite an even bigger storm. This was only the beginning, and the fallout from Jock's revelations was far from over. The tension didn't subside for even a moment as Jock leaned against the edge of the kitchen counter, his eyes never leaving Kirk and Rasheeda. The air was thick with anticipation, each heartbeat echoing the unspoken question, what would come next? Kirk ran a hand over his face, struggling to maintain composure while processing the avalanche of information. "Jock, you're saying all this? But why now? Why not months ago?" he asked, his voice a mixture of frustration and bewilderment. Jock's response was calm, but the weight behind it cut deep. "Because I needed to be sure. I needed to know it wasn't just rumors, that the facts were clear. I couldn't risk saying anything until I knew exactly what I was dealing with." Rasheeda, still visibly shaken, crossed her arms, her gaze sharp as a blade. "Facts? You call this a fact?" she shot back. "This is chaos. You're tearing everything apart, Jock." The words hung in the room, heavy and undeniable, but Jock stood firm, his expression unyielding, knowing the family needed this confrontation, even if it hurt. Emotions ran even higher as Jock began recounting specific incidents, bringing to light private moments that had never been discussed in public. The room seemed to shrink under the intensity, each revelation layering over the last, compounding the drama. Kirk's voice rose slightly as he interjected, his temper fraying. "I don't understand how this went unnoticed. How did nobody tell me this before?" Jock's eyes softened slightly, acknowledging Kirk's pain. "Because some people thought it wasn't the right time. But hiding it hasn't helped anyone, Kirk. Now, we deal with it together or it gets worse." Rasheeda, struggling to process everything, let out a heavy sigh, shaking her head in disbelief. Together? Jock, you realize this could destroy us, right? This isn't just some petty secret. This is about trust, loyalty, and everything we've built. Jock's gaze met hers with an intensity that left no room for denial. Exactly. That's why I had to say something now. If not, the cracks would only grow bigger. And one day, it would be too late to fix. The drama escalated when Jock revealed that some of the hidden moments involved interactions with friends and extended family, adding layers of complexity and betrayal that nobody expected. It's not just between us, Jock explained. There are others who've been swept into this, knowingly or unknowingly, and they're counting on us to address it before it spirals out of control. Kirk's jaw tightened, his mind racing as he tried to comprehend the far-reaching implications. So you're saying we've been manipulated behind our backs? He asked, his tone tinged with disbelief and anger. Rasheeda's eyes narrowed, a mixture of sorrow and outrage flooding her expression. Manipulated? Jock, I trusted these people. We all did. And now, what? Are we supposed to just accept that everything we thought we knew was a lie? Jock's answer was steady, deliberate. No, Rasheeda, we confront it. We figure out what's true, what's not, and then we decide how to move forward. Hiding it only makes it worse. As the conversation progressed, the emotional stakes continued to rise. Kirk and Rasheeda alternated between anger, disbelief, and moments of silent reflection, each pause punctuated by the weight of Jock's revelations. Jock's storytelling was meticulous, unfolding one revelation after another, each one more shocking than the last. He described private conversations, overlooked details, and decisions that had ripple effects none of them had anticipated. I've seen the impact of keeping this quiet, Jock admitted, his voice heavy with emotion. I've watched friendships fracture. I've watched trust erode. And I can't let that happen to us. We need clarity. We need honesty. Kirk's frustration boiled over. You think this is easy for me to hear? After everything? I've been blind to all of this. And now I have to pick up the pieces? Rasheeda, equally distraught, chimed in, her voice shaking. And what about me? I've been building a life, trusting people I thought had my back. And now I find out everything was a lie. The room felt like it was collapsing under the weight of the truth. But Jock continued, undeterred. He delved into specifics about how the secrets had affected relationships, highlighting instances where misunderstandings and concealed truths had created unnecessary friction. This isn't about blame, Jock explained, his voice firm yet compassionate. It's about seeing the full picture and understanding how we got here. Only then can we figure out how to protect ourselves and the people we care about. Kirk, running a hand through his hair, exhaled sharply. I thought I knew everything about our circle, about our family, but clearly, I was wrong. This changes everything. Rasheeda's eyes welled up with tears as she whispered, how do we even start to fix this? Everything feels shattered. Jock, standing in the center of the room, nodded solemnly. We start by facing the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is. Only then can we rebuild. Suddenly, the tension erupted into a heated argument as hidden emotions collided with unspoken grievances. Kirk, frustrated and feeling blindsided, raised his voice. You think you've got the moral high ground, Jock, but do you understand what you're doing to us? To me? Rasheeda joined in, her voice trembling but fierce. It's not just about you or Jock, Kirk. This affects all of us. We trusted people. And now, we don't even know who we can trust anymore. Jock, refusing to back down, responded with intensity. I didn't come here to create chaos. I came here to prevent it from getting worse. The truth was always going to come out. And I'd rather it come from me than from rumors or lies later. The room was a whirlwind of emotion, the volume rising, tears streaming and hearts pounding as each participant struggled to process the unfolding reality amid the chaos. Jock introduced another twist, one that would leave fans reeling and the family questioning everything further. He revealed a conversation Mendeecees had held privately, one that had gone unnoticed by Kirk and Rasheeda but had significant implications. The revelation was met with stunned silence, broken only by Kirk's sharp intake of breath. You're telling me he knew all this time? Kirk asked, disbelief etched across his face. Rasheeda's hands shook as she tried to steady herself. And nobody told us? How could he keep this from us? From me? Jock, maintaining his calm, explained. It wasn't about keeping you in the dark for malice. There were reasons. Misguided, perhaps, but reasons nonetheless. The problem is, the secrecy created the perfect storm for misunderstandings and hurt feelings. The revelation added another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation, leaving everyone in the room along with fans watching remotely on edge. The emotional intensity showed no signs of slowing. Jock, Kirk, and Rasheeda delved deeper into the consequences of the hidden truths, examining how relationships had been strained, how alliances had shifted, and how family dynamics were now irrevocably altered. Kirk's frustration turned to contemplation as he tried to reconcile his feelings of betrayal with the reality Jock presented. I don't know how to forgive this, Kirk admitted quietly, a rare moment of vulnerability breaking through his usually composed exterior. Rasheeda, tears streaking her cheeks, nodded in agreement. Forgiveness is going to be hard. But ignoring it? That's impossible. We have to deal with it, Jock. Even if it hurts, Jock, his face somber but resolute, replied, That's why I came forward. Pain is temporary, but the truth lasts. We can't fix what we can't see. The argument and confrontation took a turn as Jock began mediating, urging Kirk and Rasheeda to look at the bigger picture. It's not about winning or losing, he stressed. It's about understanding, about seeing the patterns, the intentions, and the consequences. If we focus only on anger and betrayal, we'll miss the chance to actually repair what's been broken. Kirk, still visibly shaken, took a deep breath and nodded slowly. Rasheeda wiped her tears, her face a mixture of skepticism and cautious hope. I want to believe that, Jock. I really do. But it's hard. Everything feels off balance now. Jock's reply was simple, yet cuttingly honest. That's the point. Balance is broken because secrets existed. Now we have the chance to restore it. If we choose to face it honestly, the family was left in a fragile state, teetering between anger, disbelief, and the first flickers of understanding. Jock's revelations had unearthed deep-seated emotions, unearthed hidden truths, and forced everyone to confront uncomfortable realities. Fans would later remark on the intensity of this confrontation, flooding social media with theories, reactions, and speculation about what would happen next. Kirk and Rasheeda, though emotionally exhausted, were beginning to grasp the magnitude of Jock's honesty. The stage was set for more explosive twists, heart-wrenching drama, and shocking revelations that would leave viewers hooked and desperate for part 3. The truth had been partially revealed, but the fallout, the confrontations, emotional reckonings, and possible reconciliations was only just beginning. Picks up with the room still thick with tension, the air heavy with the unspoken question of what would happen next. Jock had done the hard part. He had laid the groundwork, revealed secrets, and confronted Kirk and Rasheeda with truths that had been long buried. But now the emotional fallout began in earnest. Kirk sat back in his chair, running a hand through his hair, clearly wrestling with the enormity of everything Jock had uncovered. I can't believe this, he muttered, his voice shaky. I trusted people, believed in things that now feel like lies. Rasheeda, standing with arms crossed and tears still brimming in her eyes, shot a glance at Jock. And you just expected us to take this? To digest it all in one sitting? Jock's gaze met hers, unwavering, his voice calm but firm. I didn't expect it to be easy, but it had to happen. The longer it stayed hidden, the worse it would get. The tension was palpable, and even the quiet moments between words seemed loaded with suspense, each beat brimming with anticipation. Fans watching from home were riveted, posting reactions like, "This is insane. I can't believe what Jock just revealed." And Kirk and Rasheeda's faces say it all. The conversation shifted as Jock elaborated on more specific incidents, revealing connections and moments that had never been considered. He detailed times when miscommunication and secrecy had caused rifts, pointing out how small betrayals accumulated into larger fractures within the family and social circle. Kirk's face contorted in frustration. So all this time, all the little things I thought were nothing, they were building into this? Jock nodded solemnly. Exactly. It's the little things that create the cracks. And when cracks go unnoticed, they grow into something unmanageable. Rasheeda's voice trembled with a mix of sorrow and anger. I can't believe we were left in the dark while all this was happening. And now what do we do? Jock's response was steady, almost meditative. We confront it, face it, and decide what kind of family, what kind of circle we want. Moving forward, the choice is ours, but it has to start with honesty. Suddenly, the drama intensified when Jock introduced another bombshell, revealing an interaction that directly implicated Mendeecees in a situation that no one had anticipated. The revelation was met with stunned silence. Kirk's eyes widened, his jaw tightening as he tried to absorb the information. You're telling me he knew? And he kept this from me? From us? Rasheeda's hands flew to her face, her emotions a tangled mix of disbelief, anger, and betrayal. And all this time, we were supposed to just trust that everything was fine. Jock, standing firm, met both their gazes evenly. It wasn't easy for him to keep quiet. There were reasons, misguided maybe, but reasons nonetheless. The secrecy wasn't meant to harm anyone, but hiding it created a perfect storm. The room was practically vibrating with intensity, the emotional stakes higher than ever. Every fan watching online could feel the gravity of the moment, many commenting, "This is the most dramatic confrontation yet. And I've never seen LHHATL get this real." The argument escalated further as Jock continued, refusing to let the unresolved issues linger. He pressed on, outlining the consequences of the secrets, showing Kirk and Rasheeda exactly how every omission had impacted relationships, trust, and family stability. These things don't exist in a vacuum, Jock said, his voice carrying over the tension. Every lie, every half-truth, every omission has consequences. And if we don't address them now, the damage could be irreversible. Kirk's hands shook as he tried to process it all, his frustration mounting. I can't just move past this. I feel blindsided, Jock. Completely blindsided. Rasheeda, her eyes wet but determined, leaned forward. We need answers, Jock. We need the full truth, not just pieces that make it sound dramatic. Jock nodded gravely. You'll get it, but you have to listen all the way through. No interruptions, no defenses, just honesty. The tension became almost unbearable. Jock recounted private moments, secret conversations, and instances of subtle betrayal, each story more shocking than the last. The family's reactions were raw and unfiltered, emotions spilling over as the gravity of the revelation sank in. Kirk's frustration gave way to anger, then quickly to sorrow, as he realized the depth of what had been hidden from him. Rasheeda's composure shattered repeatedly, tears streaking her cheeks as she confronted feelings of betrayal and disappointment. I trusted everyone around me, she whispered, almost to herself. And now, I don't know who I can trust. Jock's steady presence acted as a counterbalance, his honesty cutting through the chaos, forcing both Kirk and Rasheeda to face the uncomfortable truths that had been lurking beneath the surface. Then came the shocking twist that would leave fans talking for weeks. Jock revealed that certain allies within their circle had intentionally withheld information, leading to misunderstandings and unnecessary conflict. Kirk's face flushed with anger. Wait, you're saying people were actively deceiving us? And we didn't even know? Rasheeda's gasp echoed through the room. I can't believe this. All this time, I thought I knew what was happening. Jock's voice, calm but firm, delivered the punch. They weren't acting out of malice necessarily, but secrecy can be just as destructive as lies. Now it's up to us to decide how to move forward. The revelation added a new layer of tension, complicating already fragile relationships and leaving everyone, including fans at home, on edge, hungry to see how Kirk and Rasheeda would respond.
In a moment of rare vulnerability, Kirk admitted, I feel like everything I believed in has been turned upside down. I trusted people, I trusted my instincts, and I was wrong. Rasheeda, equally vulnerable but fighting to maintain control, added, "I don't know if I can ever fully trust again. How do we even start to rebuild?" Jock, his tone gentle yet unyielding, responded, "It starts with facing the truth, no matter how painful. Only then can we rebuild trust and figure out what kind of family or circle we want to be." The room, heavy with emotion, felt like it was on the verge of both collapse and transformation. Every fan watching live felt the weight of the conversation, commenting that the raw honesty was next-level drama and unlike anything we've seen before on LHHATL. Part 3 reached its climax when an argument broke out over accountability and responsibility. Kirk, struggling with feelings of betrayal, raised his voice. "So after all this, who's supposed to be responsible? Who's accountable for letting things get this far?" Rasheeda, her voice sharp and tinged with bitterness, countered, "We all are, Kirk. Every one of us. But the difference is, now we have a chance to do better." Jock's calm but firm voice cut through the escalating tension. "Accountability starts with honesty. That's why I came forward. Not to point fingers, but to make sure we can all face the consequences together and learn from them." The room pulsed with raw emotion, the energy so intense it felt like every word could ignite a firestorm of further conflict or lead to the first steps of healing. The emotional intensity had reached its peak, but the resolution remained just out of reach. Kirk and Rasheeda were exhausted, their minds racing with questions, doubts, and the weight of the truths Jock had revealed. Jock, meanwhile, remained the steady center, guiding the conversation with honesty and patience, even as tempers flared and emotions surged. Fans watching from home were left in suspense, debating endlessly about who was right, who was wrong, and what this meant for the family's future. The stage was perfectly set for the final part, where more revelations, confrontations, and emotional reckonings would unfold, promising even higher drama and jaw-dropping moments. The truth had been revealed, but the fallout, the choices, consequences, and potential reconciliations was still to come, leaving everyone on the edge of their seats. The tension in the room was nearly unbearable. Kirk and Rasheeda sat in stunned silence for a moment, each trying to process the full impact of Jock's revelations. The silence was heavy, filled with the unspoken question of what would happen next, a question that even Jock didn't have a full answer to yet. Fans watching the live clips would later describe this moment as pure intensity, a rare glimpse into the raw, unfiltered emotion behind the reality TV facade. Jock, sensing the weight of the moment, took a deliberate step forward. "We can't move forward without addressing every detail," he said firmly, his voice steady but commanding. Kirk finally broke the silence, his jaw tight with frustration. "Every detail? Jock, some of this it's unbearable to even think about. Why did it have to get this far?" Rasheeda's voice trembled as she added, "I trusted so many people. And now, I don't even know who I am supposed to trust." Jock nodded, his expression calm but resolute. "I know it's hard. That's why I'm here, now. We face it together. Nothing more, nothing less." The drama escalated as he began to reveal even deeper layers, moments that involved misunderstandings, intentional secrecy, and even subtle manipulations that had affected the family dynamic more than anyone could have imagined. Kirk's frustration boiled over, his voice rising. "So, everything I believed, everything I thought I knew, it's all been a lie?" Jock's answer was unwavering. "Not everything, Kirk. But the pieces you didn't know about created a false picture, one that's been shaping your decisions and feelings all along." Rasheeda, still trembling, let out a heavy sigh. "And the people we thought had our backs, they were part of this. How could they? How could they let it go this far without telling us?" Jock's gaze softened slightly. "They weren't trying to hurt anyone intentionally. But the secrecy created consequences none of them anticipated. That's why we're here, now." The room erupted into another heated exchange as Jock detailed more specific instances involving friends, family, and even minor allies who had unintentionally contributed to misunderstandings. "It's not just about Mendeecees," Jock emphasized. "It's about the ripple effect of secrets and half-truths. Every omission has consequences, and now it's all coming to light." Kirk, visibly shaken, muttered, "I feel like I've been living in a bubble. Everything I thought was solid, it's crumbling." Rasheeda, wiping away tears, added, and we're supposed to just move forward after this. After everything we've just heard, Jock's tone was firm but compassionate. We don't just move forward blindly. We analyze, we confront, and we decide together what the next step is. That's how trust can be rebuilt. Fans watching online were glued to their screens, flooded with emotions, many commenting, "The tension is unreal, and I can't believe what Jock just revealed, this is next level drama." The confrontation reached a boiling point when Jock disclosed a final, unexpected revelation that shook the room to its core. He revealed that there had been moments where Mendeecees' actions, though seemingly innocent, had significant implications that directly affected Kirk and Rasheeda's trust and sense of security. Kirk's face went pale. "You mean, he knew all along? And we had no idea?" Rasheeda's eyes widened, her voice quivering. "And no one thought to tell us? After all we've been through?" Jock, standing firm, explained, "It wasn't malice. There were reasons, misjudgments perhaps, but keeping it hidden created more pain than anyone anticipated. That's why it's coming out now, so we can face it honestly." The room was electric with emotion, the kind of drama that makes fans gasp, tweet furiously, and debate endlessly. In a moment of rare vulnerability, as Jock walked Kirk and Rasheeda, "I feel like everything I believed in has illustrating been how each secret or omission had compounded into a tangled web of misunderstandings, and I was wrong. Mistrust, Rasheeda, equally vulnerable, frustration fighting to maintain raw anger." Added, "So, I don't know if I can ever fully trust again. While everything was happening right under our noses." And Jock, no one thought we deserved yet unyielding, responded, shaking her head, facing the truth, his sentiment. "No matter how painful. This isn't just a mistake. Only then can we rebuild this trust is betrayal and figure out what kind of family I can't even process it all at once." The room, Jock, heavy with emotion, composed, felt like it was on the verge of both collapse and transformation. "That's why we're having this conversation." Felt the weight of the conversation, truth, commenting that the raw honesty was next level drama. We can't rebuild or protect what matters most. Fans watching live expressed their shock when an argument broke out over accountability and responsibility. Is not holding back, Kirk, and struggling with feelings of betrayal. It's brutal honesty at its finest. So after all the emotional confrontation to be responsible, Kirk and Rasheeda began to reflect on the broader implications of Jock's revelations. Her voice sharp and tinged with how trust had been fractured, relationships strained, every family dynamics altered. But the difference is, Kirk admitted, "Now we have a chance if I can ever fully trust Jock's the same way again." But firm voice everything through the escalating tension. Accountability starts with honesty, with both sorrow and determination. Forward, but we can't point fingers forever. But to make sure we can find a way to move forward together, even if it's painful. The room pulsed with raw emotion. Exactly. The energy so intense it felt like every word pain is temporary, but clarity can last a lifetime. The first steps of the raw honesty of the emotional intensity had reached its commenting, but the resolution remained just out of reach. And I can't believe how real Rasheeda were exhausted, watching history, their minds racing with questions. The climax of part 4 arrived as Jock facilitated a mediated discussion between Kirk and Rasheeda, the steady encouraging them to voice their conversation with honesty and patience and hopes. Even as tempered each word and emotion surged, carried the weight of months watching of from home were left in suppressed emotions, debating endlessly about who was right, admitted, who was wrong, I feel blindsided, and what this meant for the family's future, and angry all at once. The stage was perfectly I don't set even know where to start with fixing where more revelations, Rasheeda, confrontations, still and emotional reckonings would unfold. I feel the same, promising even higher drama and jaw-dropping moments. But I also know we can't ignore it. But we have to face choices, or it will consume us, and potential reconciliations were still to come, leaving everyone on the edge of their seats. This is your moment in the room confront the truth nearly together. Unbearable. Decide what you value and Rasheeda start rebuilding the foundation for a moment. Secrecy each trying to process the full impact. The room's intensity was palpable. A mix of raw emotion, filled with the unspoken and the tentative what would happen honesty next. Could lead to a question that even Jock summarized the revelations yet and guided Kirk and watching the live clips would later describe this moment as pure intensity. The family, a rare glimpse and emotionally raw, unfiltered emotions behind the reality TV one built on honesty, reflection, sensing the weight of the moment, took a deliberate step forward. The secrets are out. We can't move forward without addressing every detail. And the consequences are real. He said firmly, but what you do next is up to you. Kirk finally broke the silence, but only if you face everything head on. Every
Kirk and
detail.
Rasheeda exchanged
Jock,
a long,
some of
heavy
this
look.
is, it's
Their eyes
unbearable
reflecting
to even
both
think
exhaustion
about.
and the faint
Why did it
spark of
have to
hope.
get this far?
Fans watching the
Rasheeda's
live
voice
clips
trembled
erupted
as
with
she
reactions,
added, "I trusted
flooding
so
social
many
media
people.
with comments
And
like,
now,
I'm crying.
I don't even
The
know
raw
who I am
honesty
supposed
is incredible,
to trust."
and this is
Jock
the ultimate
nodded,
mortal
his
drama.
expression
It's
calm but
unforgettable.
resolute.
By the end
I
of
know
part
it's
4,
hard.
the room
That's
was
why
quieter.
I'm here.
The immediate
Now,
emotional
we
storm
face it
having
together.
passed, leaving
Nothing
Kirk and
more,
Rasheeda to
nothing
process
less.
the full weight
The
of
drama
Jock's revelations.
escalated as he began
The
to
family
reveal
had
even
been
deeper
divided,
layers,
shaken,
moments that
and
involved
forced to confront
misunderstandings
truths they had never
intentional
anticipated,
secrecy,
and even
but the
subtle
groundwork for
manipulations
potential
that had affected the
reconciliation,
family dynamic more than anyone could
and
have
rebuilding
imagined.
trust had been
Kirk's
laid.
frustration
Jock's
boiled
bravery
over,
in
his
revealing
voice
the
rising.
awkward, messy,
So,
and
everything
deeply
I
personal
believed,
truths
everything
had
I
shifted
thought
the
I knew,
dynamics
it's
entirely,
all been a lie,
leaving fans
Jock's
buzzing with
answer was
speculation about
unwavering.
what would happen
Not
next.
everything,
The drama,
heartbreak,
but the pieces
and
you
raw
didn't know
honesty
about
had reached
created
its
a
peak,
false picture,
and viewers were
one
left
that's been
eagerly
shaping your
anticipating how the
decisions and
fallout would
feelings all
continue
along.
to unfold.
Rasheeda,
the tension
still
lingering
trembling,
like smoke
let
after a
out a
storm,
heavy sigh,
promising more
and the
emotional
people we
roller
thought had
coasters
our
to come.
backs, they were part of this. How could they? How could they let it go this far without telling us? Jock's gaze softened slightly. They weren't trying to hurt anyone intentionally. But the secrecy created consequences none of them anticipated. That's why we're here, now. The room erupted into another heated exchange as Jock detailed more specific instances involving friends, family, and even minor allies who had unintentionally contributed to misunderstandings. It's not just about Mendeecees, Jock emphasized. It's about the ripple effect of secrets and half-truths. Every omission has consequences, and now it's all coming to light. Kirk, visibly shaken, muttered, "I feel like I've been living in a bubble. Everything I thought was solid, it's crumbling." Rasheeda, wiping away tears, added, "And we're supposed to just move forward after this. After everything we've just heard." Jock's tone was firm but compassionate. "We don't just move forward blindly. We analyze, we confront, and we decide together what the next step is. That's how trust can be rebuilt." Fans watching online were glued to their screens, flooded with emotions, many commenting, "The tension is unreal, and I can't believe what Jock just revealed, this is next-level drama." The confrontation reached a boiling point when Jock disclosed a final, unexpected revelation that shook the room to its core. He revealed that there had been moments where Mendeecees' actions, though seemingly innocent, had significant implications that directly affected Kirk and Rasheeda's trust and sense of security. Kirk's face went pale. "You mean, he knew all along? And we had no idea?" Rasheeda's eyes widened, her voice quivering. "And no one thought to tell us? After all we've been through?" Jock, standing firm, explained, "It wasn't malice. There were reasons, misjudgments perhaps, but keeping it hidden created more pain than anyone anticipated. That's why it's coming out now, so we can face it honestly." The room was electric with emotion, the kind of drama that makes fans gasp, tweet furiously, and debate endlessly.